Welcome to Let's Face It. I'm Lorraine Croston, wellness coach at Eating Evolution. My guest today is Janet Reese. She's the Money Counsellor and has been advising families and businesses to manage their finances since 2003. The finance savvy advice she provides is objective with no ties to investments, insurance, banks, lenders, credit counseling, or bankruptcy trustees. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you.
What makes you different from your typical financial advisor?
My goal is to help you achieve your goals. So to work with you one-on-one for one time and teach you how to manage your finances yourself really makes me different from any other service that's out there. I look at everything. So we're looking at your bills, your debts, your goals, how much you spend for groceries, how much you spend for recreational events. And I don't think that financial planners really look at that. Usually a financial planner is more interested in how much money you have to invest. And so therefore, their advice is really based on that alone, as opposed to everything involved in your finances.
Okay. Now, what would be your typical clients? Why would they come to you, and what are their challenges?
So a typical client is a family. Usually both people are working with children, and their biggest challenge really is debt. Mm-hmm. So often they have made many attempts to get out of debt. Often they've asked for help, often from more than one source, and they just have not been able to find the support that they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So that's why they call.
And what do you find is the most common problem? Are you finding that it's the debt or it's the lifestyle? What do you think is the most common problem that people will have with their finances?
Well, I think that there's many challenges that people are faced with their finances, but honestly, I think the most common theme that I see is that people are not making their own financial decisions. So they are relying on the professionals that are out there to tell them whether or not they can do something. And what I advise people to do is gather information. Find out what all your options are and understand them. And only then can you really make a good financial decision. It's not uncommon for me to see people who make big purchases, such as a vehicle. Mm-hmm. A client recently bought a $60,000 truck. And it's great. It was one of their goals and fantastic. But 4 months later, they have me in to work with them, and I show them how they really can't afford it. But yet, they filled out the paperwork and they were approved. Right? Yes. Approved does not mean that you can afford it. And I know that doesn't seem fair. Mm-hmm. I know it doesn't seem right. But that is the reality out there, is that people are understanding the word approved to mean that they can afford it, and it's not often the case. You have to understand that the people who are offering you debt are making money off of you being in that situation.
They make all the interest.
Exactly. So it makes sense that they're not the ones offering the service to get you out of that situation. But it is very common, and that is what I see, is that if it's not a line of credit or 2 or 3, it's this credit card and that credit card and that credit card. And people, when they find me, it's nice. It's kind of sad that it takes so long sometimes, but people are often saying to me, I've been looking for someone like you for years. Right? And so they're just very relieved that they can open up, show all their stuff, and get the advice and the support that they've been looking for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about this whole idea of the debt consolidation that the banks will offer?
I think debt consolidation can be a very valuable tool, but that's what it is. It's a tool. Without the education after or at the same time as that debt consolidation, the likelihood of you getting into that same situation is very high. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, only what I hear from clients who've, they meet with me and it's the second time they consolidate. However, this time they now have the skills and the tools so that they don't get into the same situation again.
What do you think is stopping people from maybe seeking that help?
I think there's a lot of shame and embarrassment around money. It is my goal to end that and make it socially acceptable. The media creates a facade of what people's lives are like. Because it's much like, you know, when you see the negative 2-size models in the magazines, that's not really the truth, right? It's not really the truth. And so I think with money and with lifestyle, that's much the same facade, is that people feel less than if they have money struggles or if they have money issues. And so that's really the biggest barrier to reaching out for help. When I look at people's finances and I see them spending $1,500 a month on fast food, I've never ever had a client who'd had that as a goal.
No.
But when I flush out their goals and they say to me, you know what, Janet, we work so hard. If we could just have a family vacation once a year, we would really be happy with that. Just go somewhere warm, fly somewhere, say for $5,000 once a year, we would be tickled. Well, guess if you took that $1,500 a month that you're now spending on fast food and you create a different plan for it, and you're spending, say, only $500 on fast food, and you save $1,000 a month towards your goal.
Right.
Ta-da!
I just recently, it was, the headline was, if you own a house, you're crazy. And you start to think, well, is it crazy to own a house?
Yes.
Is it better to keep the house? But, you know, there are all these questions.
Yes.
So I guess those are the types of things that you look at. Have you ever advised someone to sell their house?
Absolutely. You know, and please understand that it is advice that I give, but it's not sell your house. It would be selling your house is an option.
Right.
So it's really about creating options for people, right? And so in order to give them objective advice and say, look, these are your options, A, B, C, or D, which one are you aiming towards, and how can I help you get there?
I guess it's, I had a boss who used to say it was the coming to Jesus moment. It takes a while to get there, but once you're there and you're at peace with it, then you're okay with the decisions you make based on some sound financial advice. I think what I'm hearing is, and what I find that's appealing, is that it's not a what's in it for me. You know, you're right, financial planners will come in, they'll do all of this stuff, and it's free. And notice I put the little air quotes, free. But you have to, now, you know, when I walk into a bank, I always think, okay, they're going to give me advice, but what's in it really for me, or is it really for them?
Absolutely.
Because, of course, the banks are there to make money.
Right? I don't think it always used to be that way, but, you know, when you look at the profit numbers in the billions of dollars per quarter, you know that their goals are much different than yours. And that's the reality, and people need to wake up. The impression that you get is very different than the reality, and I think people are waking up to that, and I see it in the need for my own business.
Growing up, you know, my parents were very careful with money. They're retired. They're able to pay all of their bills.
Nice.
They have their own little life. But what I found was that until I bought my own house,
right?
Oh my God, houses are expensive.
They
you know, I knew that growing up there was the little sign that said taxes. So I knew you paid property taxes. And of course I knew that you paid for the gas and the water and the electricity. I just never realized how much. Why isn't any of this taught? Like I didn't learn any of the real financial nitty-gritties going through grade school, high school, college. Like it's not really taught.
It's amazing because they say that it is taught, okay? But what they're teaching is they're teaching things at such a much higher level than what's needed, so that none of it really makes sense to people. Why isn't this being taught?
Right.
Well, the reason it's not being taught is because I don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think anybody wants you to know. I don't think there's really any structures or systems or government or whatever that really wants people to know how to manage money. Because if you think about it, if you knew how to manage money, say like I do, right? I pay very little fees, very little interest. And so they are not making those billion-dollar profits off of people like myself, right?
Right.
they're making those billion-dollar profits off of people who don't know, right?
They're making them off me,
And so
guaranteed.
honestly, I think that's why.
People are experiencing a bigger debt load than at any other time in history. And let's face it, somebody is making money, and it isn't you. You're not getting to keep your money. So why not get a little bit more education on what you should do and how to keep your money in your own pocket rather than in everyone else's? Well, that was great information, Janet. I really appreciate it. Did you have any other tidbit of information that you'd like to share with the viewers?
Sure. I think one of the biggest tips I can leave you with is to make sure your expenses are all managed monthly. One of the big things that I see in marketing today is that they're really pushing people towards the bi-weekly payments and the weekly payments. And what that does is it creates that living paycheck to paycheck situation. And so I really, really strongly advise you stay monthly and look at a bigger picture than squishing it all up to just this week.
Thank you for that tip. That's a really good one. And thank you, Janet Reese, for joining me, the Money Counselor. I'm Lorraine Croston, and this is this edition of Let's Face It.